Yo, what is going on, guys? This is Professor Loki, and in this video we're going to be doing something new. We're going to be reacting to something that that Fineokay has posted. It has drawn a bit of attention to it, and it relates to SMITE 2, and I care about SMITE 2, so I'm going to go and react to it, and why I think that basically what Fineokay is saying is just complete nonsense. So as this Reddit post says, Fineokay's Twitter post on why default beads relic for SMITE 2 is not healthy. And he talks about it. I did skim over what he said already because that's why I'm making this. I would have to have read it to want to do this, but I haven't gone too much into detail. So we're gonna click here. Excuse me for clearing my throat, allergies. We're gonna be reading this word for word, and talk about it and whatnot. So let's go with the first part. I think beads is inherently anti-playmaking. So he doesn't really define what does he mean by playmaking, because he says it's anti-playmaking because if you CC someone and they have the ability to cleanse it immediately at the early levels, it's removing his ability to make plays. So what about things like Aegis, right? If it's true that beads is anti-playmaking, then why do we have beads in the first place? Why do we have Aegis in the first place? Why not just get rid of beads at all if it's anti-playmaking? Because clearly he's talking about beads being able to be picked up in the early game, which is something that anyone can do in SMITE 1, by the way. And he's saying that's anti-playmaking. Is he just against the concept? He says, I think beads is inherently anti-playmaking. So he's just completely against the idea of cleansing yourself? That's ridiculous. I mean, CC is such a problem in pretty much every MOBA game there is. In most PvP games it actually is. And that you kind of need beads in order to mitigate against it. So you could say it's anti-playmaking for you, but it's not anti-playmaking for the person that's cleansing, because now they have the ability to counterplay and fight back after you CC them, right? You can no longer reach level 5 as a Anubis, wrap and insta-kill someone. They can actually retaliate. You can no longer play Fender Jungle and then at level 5 gank a soul laner who has teleport, not beads, and then pull them in the tower and kill them. So it adds more counterplay. It makes the game more fight back kind of feel, which is good. We want that. We want to give people chances to fight back. Otherwise, why make a game at all if it only benefits the person who's the aggressor, right? It seems to me that he's just kind of complaining why he's not able to, CC someone to death, essentially. So I don't like this, right? It's something that I would say when I was 16 years old. I would say like Aegis is anti-playmaking because I'm Loki and I can't insta-kill you because you pressed Aegis. So like, or even you can be a Poseidon player and say the same thing, right? You say Poseidon, I'm sure every Poseidon player is like, oh, I hate Aegis. It's anti-playmaking. I can't just crack in and one-shot people. I mean, like, I don't know. I think that this is ridiculous, right? It's almost exclusively used defensively and has a low skill ceiling compared to something like Blink. The first part's very interesting. It's almost exclusively used defensively. I thought beads can only be used defensively. He is implying that there is some form of offensive use for Blink, or I mean for beads. So let's define our words here. Is he saying that because beads is intrinsically just purely defensive, it doesn't do any damage, so there's no offensive measure? We're not talking about like the old beads. Like there was a beads in season 8 and 9. I think they removed it in season in this year, right? They removed it to where it's called like, it's like the beads where if you press the active and you get CC during it, you deal damage to the person CCing you. That was the item that was never used, but it was an item in SMITE for a few years. That is offensive beads. But no one built it, so let's assume that doesn't exist. And I don't think it exists right now, and then for SMITE 2, it definitely doesn't exist. Does he mean offensive then as aggression? Because like, let's say I'm Loki and I attack someone and then Shock is ulting and I beads and I pre-beads to prevent the Shock ult from silencing my 3. That would be offensively, right? So you can say that Chalk uses ult defensively against my ambush, and in return, I use my beads offensively, aggressively, right? To mitigate, to prevent that silence, so I can keep killing Chalk with my 3, right? So by that logic, it's actually consistently used defensively and offensively. If Anubis wraps me first and tries to kill me, I beads to get away. That's defensively. If I'm the one attacking Anubis and I pre-beads him to avoid the stagger of, or to avoid the crowd control of Mummify, that is using it offensively because I'm using it in a means to achieve damage to you. Whereas in the first example, I'm using beads as a means to get away from damage. So in either example, he's wrong here, right? It is not exclusively used defensively. It's actually used quite often offensively and defensively. Maybe more so defensively because there's more. Because I mean, like, if you're just minding your business, you get attacked, right? you're gonna use beads defensively, right? You get more. I think you're more likely to be attacked than be the one attacking, unless you're like a jungler, obviously. So I don't think this is true. I think this is completely wrong. And unless I'm missing something, because obviously this is a Twitter, so it's not going to have every information for it, but he needs to define what he means by this. And then let's go for the second part, and has a low skill ceiling compared to something like Blink. I don't see how that has anything to do with why Beads is inherently bad, or why it's lame. I think he says right here, default Beads relic is lame. So he has something. Oh, how do I go back? Oh, okay. I don't know how to use Twitter. Okay. So he's like saying default beads is inherently bad, or really, which is, again, I don't see how that relates to skill ceiling. So he's saying that because beads is a low skill ceiling comparatively to Blink, which is one of the highest skill, if not the highest skill ceiling active in the game, it makes beads lame. So every active is practically lame, except unless they have a high skill ceiling. That doesn't really make any sense. Don't see how that has anything to do with relevancy. You can have something that's not lame and have a low skill ceiling. So it's totally fine if a hero or an item or an active has a low skill ceiling. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with that. It's only wrong if everything is like that. If everything is high skill ceiling, or if everything is low skill ceiling, that's bad, right? So I don't see how, and I think that's the point of beads anyways, is so you can have an easy way to get rid of CC from you. I mean, do you want beads to be like a time thing? Like if you press beads, you have to activate your combinations, like Helldivers, support call or whatever it's called. You have to press a button combinations to activate it. Like, do you want that? Like, no, that's ridiculous. I don't see how it has anything to do with relevant, and I don't know why he's comparing beads to Blink. Anyways, in every argument for it, I don't like in a new game like SMITE 2. So I think what he's going to do, because I skimmed through this, what he's going to do is he's going to present an argument that's in favor of beads, and then he's going to counter the argument with the following statement. All right. So the pro beads statement: there are too much CC in the game. What this means is that because there's so much CC in this game, that's why we need beads. He is going to counter that logic by reversing it. You're making a new game. Lower the CC in the game. So he's saying that if we need beads because there's too much CC, then it stands to reason to say that just lower the CC and we won't need beads. There's a big problem with this argument though. You cannot say just lower the CC. Every PvP game intrinsically has, or really as most games ever, like even PvE games, have something called power creep. It's a phenomenon that exists in pretty much every game. Whenever a developer adds content into something, usually it is better than the current situation, and that transitions from the current to the new status quo, and that makes the old stuff bad and the new stuff the new meta. So power creep is going to happen. If the meta right now is like one character with 1 CC, they're going to eventually add a character with 2 CCs and maybe 3 and so forth. He's also and this is the part 2, the second part here. Every character doesn't need 3 hard CCs. 3 hard CCs. This is true. I agree with this. Not every character needs to have 3 hard CCs. Generally, every character has at least 1 hard CC. I think the average CC, I don't know. I've never actually done this, but based on my feeling of playing SMITE, it was like on average a unit has between 1 to 2 CCs and hard CCs in their kit. So usually a stun or some form, right? Like, like Arachne has a stun, 1 stun, Loki has 1 stun, Bastet has 1 stun. Usually the characters with multiple hard CCs are usually warriors or guardians. Mages, assassins, and ADCs usually just have 1 hard CC. So I don't even understand this argument at all. Fenrir would be a case where there's only 2 CCs. What's a character that has like 3 hard CCs? Baron has a hard CC. That's a root. He has a pole. I guess that's a hard CC. I think it's a hard CC. So Baron has 2 hard CC. That's not 3 though. I can't think of. I'm pretty sure you guys in the comments can tell me characters that have 3 hard CCs. But even then, I think we can all agree that the average CC in Smite 1 is between 1 to 2, like hard CC. And I don't think, and that's normal. No, like I seriously doubt the average hard CC in Smite is 3. I doubt it. I could be wrong. I doubt it. So, this doesn't even make any sense, right? Unless he's just exaggerating. But like, why? That's like not a appropriate time to exaggerate this. So this is just wrong, based on my understanding. He's also not accounting for something called soft CC. So he's thinking that, I mean, maybe, again, I don't think he really thought before he spoke. Soft CC also gives reasons to use beads. So if every person has 1 hard, let's say the average, let's best case scenario for Fineokay. The average, every god has 1 hard CC and then 1 soft CC. Okay, that means there are 10 crowd control effects that you yourself have to worry about. That's a lot, man. That is a lot. Beads only prevents really just 1 or 2 instances of crowd control. It's not like everyone in the whole game or just throw only the crowd control abilities on you. It's usually like in the moment situation, right? So this doesn't make any sense. You need beads, even if we only had 1 hard CC per character, you're still going to need beads. Otherwise you get CC chained in like game stages. Like just having 2 to 3 people using their crowd control on you is enough to like CC chain you to death, and beads prevents this. So unless you want to make characters with 0 crowd control, but that doesn't really make any sense. Because then you ask yourself, why do we have crowd control in the first place? It isn't just to control the crowd. It's also just so you can land your abilities better. Imagine Kukulkan without a slow. Like, you know how many more misses? Like Kukulkan, people who play Kukulkan already miss their ults quite often enough, right? Now imagine if they had no slow on that little ball of spit wind that he does. Sepher, I don't know, something like that. It's like a 40% slow or something, and it allows him to land his ult unless the enemy has a leap. So it's a way to help you to use your abilities. Loki's 3 helps him stick on people to auto attack them more, right? So it's not like you use CC only just to purely control the crowd. This is one that the funniest, because people act like it should just be a given that there's too much. Oh my god, that there's too much CC in this game, Lamau. I think that this is kind of ironic. I think maybe he is talking to himself about this. I think it's obvious why people assume that there is going to be a lot of CC in this game, because again, if you just assume that 1 person has hard crowd control, that's 5 people having hard crowd control, and assuming that everyone also has 1 soft crowd control, that's 10 total CCs that the enemy has. That's a lot. And it's also because of power creep. Everyone acknowledges that power creep is a thing in this game. I don't know why he's not acknowledging it, but it's going to happen. If you compare 2012 gods to 2024 gods, you'll see a massive difference in crowd control. So it's not something that is just, snap your fingers and just, lower the CC in this game so we don't need beads. And it's not fair for him to kind of make fun of the people who who act like it is just a given that there's too much CC in this game. What do you mean? Like, of course it's a given. Power creep is a thing in this game. And there's also like, I don't think there's a single character in Smite that has 0 crowd control. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. Even Camazotz, who has no hard crowd control, has a crowd control in this kit. It's a slow, and that slow lasts for 50 years. So, And I'm pretty sure that people, I mean, I'm sure you would agree, even Fineokay would agree that there are times, a lot of times, where you would beads against a slow. Slows are one of the most powerful CCs in this game. In fact, it was so powerful that it actually nerfed them in season 2 or 3. It used to be able to stack slows. So this is back when like Bologna was meta with like Frostbound Hammer meta and like Shield Bash. She would shield bash you to slow you for like 40% or something. Like, it was crazy back then. And then on top of that, she would auto attack you, slowing you down even like, what was it, 15, 20% even more. So you would effectively be rooted. Like, it's crazy. So they actually nerfed slows in this game. That's how strong slows were, and still are, by the way. Slows are incredibly strong in this game. And because there's more slows than there are stuns, they are more impactful than stuns, because you'll see them happen more often. Anyways, let's continue down to the second prompt. Beads is noob friendly. This argument is suggesting that beads is necessary as to be a default starter item, to starter relic, because it is noob friendly, which is fair, by the way. It's like giving people free wards. It's noob friendly because now you don't have to push a button to buy a ward and then place it down. You just got to push one button to place it down. So it incentivizes people to put wards more, and accountability is held to you if you don't put wards. So it actually benefits newer players to give them free wards. It's the same idea with beads. Give them free beads and they'll use it. Don't give them free beads, they probably won't ever buy it, and they won't know how to counter crowd control. I'd argue it's not really. Okay, that's going to be very hard to argue for. Most noobs don't even recognize a CC they're being hit by or know when to use it. This is so, like, I want to say like BS. So he's assuming that most new players are incapable of recognizing the effects of crowd control. They don't know what crowd control is. He's assuming that most people who play Smite are those who just never touched a video game before. You can play, everyone who's played video games, even things like Call of Duty, which doesn't really have much of any like hard crowd control, they know what crowd control means, right? They know what CC is. Like in Call of Duty, there's suppression grenades, there's flashbangs, there's electric wire things, all things that are meant to slow you and control the crowd. So just by playing any video game, will give you enough knowledge and experience to understand that when you can't move because a Ymir froze you, you may not know who Ymir is, but you know for a fact that you can't move. And just because their reaction timing is very slow doesn't mean that they don't recognize it. It just means that your reaction time is really fast because Mr. Fineokay, you're a pro player. You're better than all of us. We understand this. You don't need to make it out, right? Kind of like you're sitting on top of a mountain and we're all ants down here. We get it. You're great. But this is ridiculous to say. Just literally, like, actually on Smite 2 Alpha, I had a League of Legends player convert to play Smite. He's never played Smite before, and he said, I'm going to play Smite 2 Alpha. And he came to me and said, I don't know what any character does. I don't know what they do. I don't know what the roles are, class systems. I don't know. I just picked him and I played it, and I went like 10-2 with Odin. Even though I'm willing to bet that if I went to him and asked, hey, so you are a new Smite player, and he would say yes. And I said, okay, you're a noob then. He says, yes, I'm a noob. Do you know what CC is? And I'm pretty sure he's going to say yes. Now, he did play League and Dota, but it's not like MOBAs are the only game genres that have crowd control. Again, this is very pretentious and very assumption. It's just, this is wrong to say. Combat Blink, for example, is more intuitive in my opinion. Okay, so this is really worrying. Is he implying that it's more intuitive for a new player to use Blink than beads? Uh-oh, there's a contradiction already. Didn't you already mention how beads is considered a low skill ceiling active, which means it's easier for people to like master, right? To use beads properly and then Blink actually is the higher skill ceiling, right? And then he's right now contradicting himself, saying that it's more intuitive because anyway, I mean, he's implying that beads is not as intuitive as Combat Blink, and that new players will probably utilize Blink better than beads. I'm sorry, but this is BS. There is no way that this can be true. This is like, what are you even thinking? Really? Beads, you press it and you'll always benefit from it. In a team fight, you press Blink, you don't know what you could miss the blink, you can overshoot, you can undershoot it, you can just blink into a CC and just die instantly. You can like You can't. There's no logic behind this. Now he's talking about combat blink. He's saying that rather than new players beezing crowd control to get away, you should use combat blink to get away. But he fails to understand that blink and beads are not comparable, because if you are CC'd while you have combat blink, you cannot use combat blink. So if you are crowd controlled, it's over for you. You're already dead, because again, if a level 5, you can have combat blink, right? If Anubis wraps you at level 5, you're dead. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. But if you have beads, you'll survive. Very likely to survive, at least. Not 100%, but you'll likely to survive because you can juke it and run away, right? Like, new players are not going to utilize combat blink more effectively than beads. How do I know this? Because I played Predecessor, which has that mechanic. I'm sorry to tell you, but new players often forget they even have combat blink, and they either combat blink too short or they combat blink in the incorrect path. They don't. Like, if you want combat blink to be efficient, you need to instantly turn around and blink towards your tower. That's not something that new players are going to think about. That's not, like, fair. It's not a good comparison. This is just wrong. All right, last argument. It's also less rewarding for new players. So this part doesn't make sense. This is no longer a counter. This is no longer a pro beads argument. This is just a counter. This is a con beads argument following by confirmation bias for it. He's just saying that, like, this is not an argument. This is just saying, well, it is an argument, but it's not an argument in favoring of beads. So far, this is in favor of beads, this is in favor of beads, and then this is not in favor of beads. It's also less rewarding for new players. All right, let's read into this. Imagine you finally hit that max range CC ability or get a sick 4-man Ares ult as a new player, and then just beads and walk away. We have just met the second contradiction of this argument. Can you guys guess what it is? We just talked about it. He just said most noobs don't even recognize the CC they're being hit by. And yet here he is saying that a 4-man Ares ult, new players are able to beads and walk away. Because he's saying this: get a sick 4-man Ares ult as a new player, meaning this Ares is a new player. He'll be fighting against new players as well, right? This isn't like new players fighting against Fineokay. This is new players fighting against other new players. But he just said earlier that those new players, noobs, new players, similar terminology, right? That they can't even recognize the CC they're being hit by. So if they can't recognize the CC they're being hit by, they're not going to be able to recognize an Ares ult that doesn't even have CC until the last second. Like, when Ares ults you, he used the worst case example here. And when Ares ults you, you are not under the effects of crowd control. You have a chain attached to you that doesn't do anything to you. It doesn't do damage, it doesn't do crowd control, it doesn't do anything. And at the last second, it pulls you. So which is it? Do new players recognize the Ares ult, or do they not? Because he's saying that they do recognize them and they just walk away in beads. And then now the Ares player is going to be sad and say, I hate beads. I wish beads didn't exist. That's what he's implying. It's just ridiculous. He's just contradicting himself. Which is it? Do new players know what CC, or are new players able to recognize CC or not? Which is it? I don't know. You'll have to ask him yourself. Let's continue to the last statement. I prefer blink as the default, but that's just me. Okay. So this is less about why beads is lame and more about why I think blink is a better alternative to beads. Because beads can be not lame, and still you can make a case where blink is just a more efficient way, or just a better active to have as a default than beads. But he's saying beads is lame and beads is bad, and his beads is or beads is inherently, he's implying it's bad. It's inherently anti-playmaking. So like, he's just basically saying beads is bad, and we shouldn't have beads because it's anti-playmaking, because it's lame, because blah 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 blah. And that he's saying that instead of having beads, we should just have blink. But you can have a situation where beads is totally fine, and you just want blink instead of beads, and that's fine. But this is not relevant. Like, why blink specifically? Why are you talking about blink so much? Maybe there shouldn't be a default. Okay, so now he's just going, okay, so what is the whole point of this post then? And so first he's saying beads is a bad for default, and that he's implying that he wants blink to be default. And then now he's saying maybe there shouldn't be any default at all. He has no argument. He's just saying without thinking. I think there's some good arguments against blink as well, but at least the game will be more fun with it. I think it's more fun not being CC'd to death. I don't know about you, but we have things like diminishing returns for a reason, because it's so unfun being CC chained to death. It's so unfun playing as a level 2, level 3 squishy, having Erlang Shen blink at you, CC you to death. I think Blink is actually a problem, not a solution to fun. Blink is a problem because there's nothing more fun when a jungler blinks to you and then CCs you to death or insta bursts you to death. That's not, especially when he's advocating for combat blink, by the way. So like even when you're in combat, you should have the ability to blink. I don't know. I think this is ridiculous. You could say that blink is fun, sure, but I think we all agree that being under the effects of crowd control is not fun, and that applies to anyone. Pros, casual, noob, veterans. Like, it's not fun being crowd controlled. It's not. It is especially unfun being it is especially unfun being crowd controlled, chained, CC chained to death. That is the least fun. That is the worst thing ever because you're not playing the game. What's fun? Being able to interact with a game and enjoy the benefits from it. What does crowd control do? Hard crowd control do? Prevents you from playing the game, so you're not having fun. Right? Now, of course, I'm not saying that, again, hard crowd control shouldn't exist at all. It's just, it should exist as, for the reasons I mentioned earlier, it's easier to land your abilities, it controls the crowd so they can't just like run at you and do mindlessly things, right? It adds this kind of skill factor into the game, but at the same time, it needs to have counterplay as well. Everything generally should have counterplay. Also, I think it's easier to counter a blink because you'll have your own to chase. This just kind of proves that he doesn't really care about beads. He's just angry the fact that he can't just run at you and kill you with CC. Like he just wants people to, he says, I want you to have blink, but not because it'll make you feel safer, but because I know I can chase you with my own blink to kill you. That's what he's trying to say. It's hilarious. Because if I CC you and you beads and you walk away, there's nothing I can do about that. But if you have come at blink and I'm trying to kill you and you come at blink out of it, that's okay. I'll use my own come at blink and chase you and kill you later on, and just kill you later, right? 2 seconds later. Nothing. Okay, so that's about it, right? That's the whole thing. Nothing he says makes any sense. I think that there's a lot of contradictions. Loop. He clearly okay. Fineokay. Let me just say this. Fineokay can be right about what he's saying, but the way he's presenting it is awful. He has not proofread what he said. Like, this is something that you should be proofreading because you put a little bit of effort into it. You're a pro player with high standing. You're a well-known person in the SMITE community. You should be thinking before you speak. And this has nothing. This has nothing to do with anything that you're really trying to say. It's just a bunch of It's a bunch of contradictions and your ramblings about why you don't like. Why you think it's unfair or it's anti-playmaking for you to be able to not CC someone to death or cheese them in the lane or whatever. Like it's ridiculous. You can say that default combat blink is better than beads, but he's not saying that. He's saying beads is really, really bad. It's unfun. It is not. It's less fun. It is not new player friendly. You don't need it if you reduce CC, and it's also less rewarding. He is specifically just targeting beads and saying it's a bad relic and it shouldn't really exist. Because in Predecessor, beads doesn't exist, by the way. In Predecessor, it doesn't exist. There are starter items that give you the cleanse effect, but not everyone can access it. I think only assassins can access it. Like mages can't access it. Only assassins do. Like if you play Kalari, you can access that Shadow Blade thingy that gives you crowd control immunity, but that's it. Only like one class or something. It's very limited. There's an item too that gives you CC immunity, but it's not controlled. It's not manual. It's automatic. It's like when you reach below health or something, or it's like if you have a shield, you're immune to CC or something like that. It's like very conditional. So. Is he? I mean, I'm guessing like he's been playing Predecessor recently and he's just like advocating Predecessor vibes to SMITE. I hope they don't do that because I don't think Predecessor is a good game. I don't like their mechanics. I gave the developer, one of the developers, Blood Mortius, a list of massive problems with Predecessor, and which of course are all my opinions, but it's just the way SMITE's doing it feels right, and I think they should continue doing it. Should beads be the default? Yes. Should it be the only? No. They should have options, just like League of Legends. League of Legends has summoner spells or relics that you can change between them. But the default is, like if you pick jungle, is SMITE. It defaults into SMITE, which is Hog, by the way, or Hand of the Gods. It's a relic that allows you to kill camps. So yeah, that's about it. Maybe I'm the crazy person, but I just thought that this is ridiculous and I can't believe some Fineokay actually said this. None of this makes any sense. So yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed. If you guys have any comments about what I said, what he said, you agree or disagree? Do you think I'm the moron? It's okay. You can make fun of me. You can call me an idiot. That's fine. I don't care. Um, this is all for fun. And no disrespect to Fineokay. I have nothing against him. I just read this. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And you shouldn't be saying this because like you are a popular, like what you say kind of has an impact. So don't say things like this. This is like, you have to at least think it through before you say it. And this does not look like it's been thought through. Anyways, hope you guys all enjoyed. Take care. Stay safe. Be cool. Peace.